Britain's Royal Air Force is to release secret UFO files for the first time. This is by Aaron Kessel on The Mind Unleashed. While the RAF, the Royal Air Force, is prepared to disclose its UFO files, the U.S. Navy has stated the opposite, that it would be a national security threat to tell the truth. Well, if some other countries release theirs, then we can sort of fit the puzzle pieces together, can't we? It means that the same is going on in the U.S. TMU reports, the Mind Unleashed. The age-old question of are we alone in the universe may not be answered anytime soon, but the fact that Britain is planning on declassifying its UFO files for the first time puts us one step closer to the truth. The Royal Air Force, RAF, ran a UFO unit for 50 years that took in public sightings reports, but it was shut down in 2009 after it was determined none of the reports offered evidence of a real threat. The records from the unit were then given to the British National Archives, where they were classified. A spokesman for the RAF said that, quote, it had been assessed that it would be better to publish these records rather than continue sending documents to the National Archives, and so they are looking to put them onto a dedicated gov.uk webpage, end quote. A clearance process for the documents is currently underway before publication, which is expected to take place sometime within the first quarter of 2020, according to the Telegraph. Quote, given the massive public interest in this subject, I'm pleased that these files will be released and made available online, end quote, said Nick Pope, who used to investigate UFO sightings for the country's Ministry of Defense, CMOD, for the UK. In June 2013, the MOD previously reported it was releasing the final UFO files in the UK's possession. However, we now know that's not true, thanks to a Freedom of Information request by PA News. The response to the Freedom of Information, the RAF, in response to that, describes the files it held as, quote, compromising entirely of correspondence with members of the public, end quote. The MOD has no opinion on the existence or otherwise of extraterrestrial life and does not investigate UFO reports, quote unquote. While the attempts to hide the truth about the existence of UFOs is dying down, disclosure is ramping up, and as The Mind Unleashed previously reported, U.S. Navy officials have acknowledged that video footage showing UFOs flying is real. In the video here, in the link I'll leave below for you, it's in The Mind Unleashed in the article, Lieutenant Colonel Lawrence J. Tacker and Maj Hector Quintanilla Jr. speak about unidentified flying objects, the UFOs, and Project Blue Book, which relates to the investigation of UFOs in the United States. And just like the RAF, the Blue Book Commission determined that UFOs did not pose a security risk and that they were identifiable in 1966 under hearings. However, Dr. J. Allen Hynek, who was a lead scientist on the Blue Book Commission, confessed years later that there was a cover-up. Project Blue Book was not the only investigation into the UFOs. There was also Project Grudge, Project Sign, the Cometa Report, Majestic 12, Robertson Panel, and more recently, a whistleblower disclosed that the U.S. claimed to have an Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP. The U.S.'s own interest in UFOs is obviously well documented up to the 21st century. In fact, the very first former CIA Director Roscoe Hellencotter agreed with Hynek in the 1960 New York Times article oddly titled Air Force Order on Saucer Sighted. I believe that should be saying Air Force Order. On Saucer Sighted, pamphlet by the Inspector General called objects a serious business, end quote. That contradicts Project Blue Book's findings that the CIA's own comments a few years ago. Hill and Cotter said that the Air Force called UFOs serious business in secret. It's no wonder that they were called serious business, because years prior, in 1942, the incident known as the Battle of Los Angeles took place, where the U.S. military shot at an unknown disk over California that they later called a weather balloon, just like the infamous Roswell incident in 1947, which was first reported as a saucer, later changed to a balloon filled with crash dummies. Another high-ranking official, Major Keyhole, alleged in an earlier 1958 interview that the Air Force was deliberately dismissing and covering up UFOs, confirmed Hillenkotter and Hynek's claims made years later. Major Keyhole also exposed the CIA life that all of the UFO sightings were the agency, when he says that, quote, one pilot was killed in 48 chasing one, end quote. He also said that if they don't exist, quote, why do they rush to these crash sites, end quote. That's a very good question. A report also exists stating that the Air Force was ordered to shoot down flying saucers in 1952. And this is an article, Herald News, July 29, 1952, jets told to shoot down flying discs, from Barry Greenwood news clipping collection. While the RAF is prepared to disclose its UFO files, the U.S. Navy has stated that the opposite, that it would be a national security threat to disclose the Nimitz incident, and the release would result in, quote, exceptionally grave damage, end quote. UFOs are frequently seen around missile silos, causing nuclear weapon stations to go haywire and even go offline, disabling them since 1948, according to Captain Robert Salas. The truth is out there, and X-File fans everywhere are itching for disclosure. However, if history is any guide, we are unlikely to get anything of value from the RAF reports on citizen sightings. This is by Aaron Kessel on The Mind Unleashed and its Creative Commons, and I'll leave a link below for you for this. Now, the upcoming images are actual photographs of, for example, UFO lights over the Capitol, over Washington, D.C., and the upcoming is having to do with the Los Angeles UFO lights, the authentic photo from Los Angeles Times of a UFO over Los Angeles, and it was in 1942, witnessed by 1 million people. Quote, everything is in the process of investigating. Both U.S. and Spain, as well as the rest of the world. Nations of the world are currently working together in the investigation of the UFO phenomenon. There is an international exchange of data. General Carlos Castros Cavero, 1979, said from UFOs and National Security State, Volume 2, written by Richard Dolan. And this was going on for hours over February 25th, 1942. The picture is from the object that hovered over Los Angeles in the early morning hours. The small white dots around the object are artillery bursts. They were firing at it, but it seemed that they had a protective shield and nothing was able to get to it. This incident happened only 3 months after Pearl Harbor, and at that time there was a lot of attention placed on the U.S., and the U.S. was, of course, on high alert. The firing of the shelling was going on for 3 hours, supposedly. Approximately 1,500 rounds were fired into the sky, not over the ocean, but directly over the city. 3 people died from the shelling, 3 more from heart attacks from the shelling, from the fear. A great deal of property damage was inflicted. And Dr. Bruce Maccabee, an expert in photographic analysis, believed the objects to be roughly 100 feet or more in diameter. The event was, as we said, witnessed by about 1 million people. And also on Project Camelot, Carrie Cassidy talks to a person that was there when he was small. He was involved in creating a spacecraft for the Solar Warden of the United States. And if I remember correctly, his name is William Tompkins. And there are various videos, if you want to see him, describing what was taking place, because he was there watching this at that time when he was small. I can't forget, it was at like, what was he, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, something like that. He was actually there watching this. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So there are various things that are still unexplained. This is one of them.
On my YouTube
and tell me what you think.
consider
Obviously,
becoming a member today.
it did take place. This
More
is the
of
authentic
the
picture
most
from that
significant and important
encounter.
videos will be on my Patreon
that
channel.
shocking
Your
encounter.
support helps me to
It's like in
continue
your face.
my
There's nothing that
research
you
and
have
keeps this
that could take
YouTube
us down, type of
channel
thing.
alive.
Really intimidating, isn't it?
And we
This is on the Mind Unleashed, and one about the UFO witness.
help
UFO lights over Los Angeles
families
is
here
on
in Athens,
Collective
Greece,
Spark.
in Capota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.